Screw 616. Fuck Earth Prime. This season, we're going multiversal. Super Nerdland brings you graded .5.
Hey everybody, welcome to Grade Point 5. This is our first live episode. Why are we live? Why the fuck not?
This is a show where everything we talk about is made up and the points that we make don't matter.
We're not going to make any points.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Your mom's a... Never mind.
Yeah, quit it.
Wow. Alright, I'm your host, Jason.
I don't know why we're live. I really don't.
Shut up.
Because we can be. But yeah, I'm your host, Jason. That asshole over there's Dick. And Daryl somehow is the voice of reason.
Oh, goddamn. We know we're in dire straits when I'm the voice of reason.
This is why we shouldn't do this live, because I'm liable to talk over people.
No, that's okay.
It doesn't matter. It's not like we do editing on the actual show anyway.
Yeah.
But we don't talk over each other when we record it.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. All right. So, thanks for joining the shit show. This week's topic is a alternate universe Marvel comic book, in keeping with our theme this season. And it's Neil Gaiman's Marvel 1602 book. Put it out there right now.
Let me just say, I like alternate history stuff, but I like this especially because it's Marvel and alternate history at the same time.
Yeah, but at the same time, I found, like, the first time I read it, because I bought this book when it first came out, in the paperback at least, and I found it a little daunting at first. Like, well, yeah, you gotta know some history.
It is. Well, great thing is we've got the internet now, so when you read the there.
Well, dude, this was 2010. I mean, yeah, I think I had like dial-up back then. No, I had high speed.
Yeah, but excuse me. Jesus Christ, we're off to a great start.
Right.
This book is a really cool amalgamation of certain historical things.
Oh, sorry.
In the Marvel Comics universe.
Oh God.
Yeah,
I was wrong. 2003 is when this came out. Why did I say 2010? This book was in 2003. I was on dial-up back then, so I actually had to like go pick up history books and try to figure out what the fuck was really going on with some of this shit.
I had DSL, so...
Well, fuck you for living in civilization.
You know what? I fucking couldn't help the fact that I grew up in suburbia.
Well, let's talk about the book, shall we?
Well, no, you're off to a good start there. Run with this.
I don't know. I mean, it's an 8-issue series that kind of deals with alternate history, and there's some really cool stuff going on in this book. God damn you for putting me on the spot, man. You want to give an overview?
I'm going to give you a really big fucking hint about all that.
Yeah.
Just Wikipedia it. That's all I fucking do is this, like, read the Wikipedia page and give the bullet points.
Right. And we got ourselves a Evan joining us. We're live.
Hey, fellas.
By the way. Hey.
Yeah. Oh, we're live?
Sure. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good.
Did you read 1602?
Yeah, I did read 1602.
Let me slide this note across to you, Daryl. There you go. There you go, buddy.
I'm already there, man.
He'd read it out loud.
Man.
But
and she'd see that
this is one of those books that you're gonna want to hit the Wikipedia's for, because it's dense. There's a lot of stuff going on here.
That's
for real.
That's classic Neil Gaiman. Very dense storytelling, with a lot of threads all coming into one central spot.
Right. And some really interesting. Okay, so this takes place in 1602, as the title would lead you to believe, and for an unknown reason, according to Wikipedia, superheroes appeared about 400 years ago, and that all plays out. Like why the heroes appeared early, and kind of the implications that has for the work they're looking. And we get to see a lot of the characters we know and love put into this, completely different framework and shit. And the coolest thing about the book, I think, is the way it handles the characters. Like we're introduced to, Nick Fury, Peter Parker.
Sir Nicholas Fury and Peter Parker.
Yeah, right. but yeah, I mean, we're introduced to all the characters we know and love in this setting where, Queen Elizabeth's death kind of kicks shit into motion, and each character has his own role to play within this kind of conspiracy and this and whatnot, and it's really interesting stuff.
This is honestly so dense that I feel like even a plot synopsis would take a half hour.
Yeah.
If not 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the overarching plot is, you've got all this political intrigue and whatnot, the various characters roles within that, but the overarching plot is that the world is going to be destroyed by, not just the world, but like every universe is multiverse, rather, going to be destroyed by characters. He was sent back into the past, and his role there is, he's not supposed to be there. It's gonna fuck shit up, basically. And so that's the overarching story, but the story within that framework is just really interesting.
Interesting little note. Did you notice who the president for life was?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have figured it'd been like Doom somehow or some shit, but no, it's fucking Purple Man.
Right. And I guess that part of the story, kind of outlives everyone else. All the other heroes are either captured or killed, and the Purple Man becomes president for life, and Steve is captured, and they want to dispose of him so completely that there's no memory of him or whatever, so they have him placed into a machine that's supposed to kill him, but instead sends him back into the past, and his presence in the past brings out the era of heroes 400 years before it's supposed to happen. And we get to meet the Watcher, Uatu, who brings Strange to the moon and tells him, basically, the multiverse will die if Rogers isn't sent back to the future. So that's that is kind of what drives the last few issues. Up to that point, we get a lot of political intrigue and characters working within that, and it's really cool stuff. And we get to see how. Yeah.
I was gonna say I want to take a look at some of those individual threads. There's some interesting twists on the Marvel we're used to.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like for example, like the way the Fantastic Four plays out in this world without technology. Instead of going to space, they're out on the open sea, and they meet with circumstances that are kind of similar to their voyage into space and they become the Fantastic Four, but you don't see them. They're alluded to the entire book through a song by the minstrel, the blind minstrel,
Matthew Murdock.
Matthew Murdock, right? And we eventually do get to see them, but yeah, it's just like all the stuff we know and love. It does play itself out, but in very different ways.
Well, like with Matthew Murdock, you've got some real fun stuff, like where he's Irish, and there's a whole bunch of jokes about how he's Irish. So, like, who doesn't like jokes about the Irish? Come on.
The Irish?
I'm Irish, yeah.
And the great thing is...
Well, no, they don't like jokes about the Irish. They fucking love them.
I think out of all the various countries on the face of the planet, an Irishman could take a joke about himself the best.
But Matthew Murdock is written more like he was back before Frank Miller kind of pardoned him, with Batman. He's got a sense of humor and whatnot, and got a thread where he's on a mission to bring back this item of power, along with Natasha Romanoff. Well, Natasha, the Black Widow in this universe, anyway, or this timeline, and it's kind of cool. We get to see characters, acting like they did back in the day and stuff, and we've got the story flips stuff on its ear, like the mutant stuff. You've got Carlos Javier, who's Xavier, and he runs his school or whatever. Takes in what are called witch breed by the people, which are the mutants of this reality. And on the other side of that, we've got what was Magneto's name in this one?
Grand Inquisitor Enrique.
Right.
Who leads the Spanish Inquisition, which is just a wonderful twist on his past as a Jew. Like, it's a wonderful twist that he's basically forced to be adopted as a kid. And instead of surviving the Holocaust, he survives the Inquisition. He's not allowed back with his family, not unlike his past in the Holocaust, and ends up trying to manipulate those who betrayed him. It's wonderful.
Right. And he becomes the Grand Inquisitor of the Spanish Inquisition. Is a really interesting place for him to be in. And but basically, his whole thing is he's trying to save mutants in his own way. What he's doing is specifically meant to save the witch breed, and he's got his own group of people, including Wanda and Pietro, this reality's versions, and for a while they are in collusion with James, right? Yeah. King James the Sixth of Scotland, and at a point he's captured and kind of becomes Magneto we are more familiar with, and forms the Brotherhood of those who will inherit the Earth. And
well, he's even like normal Magneto in other ways, where it's like, yeah, some mutants, they're probably his job is to persecute the witch breed, but he still lets a few of them survive, not only because they're his, secretly his children in the novel, but also because he only cares about certain mutants, the ones he thinks are going to be strong enough to help him lead his new world. So it's it's a really good fitting right on the character.
Right. Well, also, he did have an agreement with James at one
even
point.
To the point where he feuds with,
Whoa. A little bit of technical difficulty.
We lost somebody.
Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen.
There he goes.
All right, where were you?
Yeah, where was I? Remind me of the last thing I said before my internet decided to take a shit.
I think you were talking talking about how he lets mutants survive, like his kids. That was the last thing I heard.
So, like, not only does he choose... Okay, his job is to persecute the witch breed, but he chooses specifically to let some die. The ones who are secretly his children in the series, yes. But also Toad he lets live. He lets ones that he thinks will further his goals, which is, like, Magneto to a T. Well, if you're willing to side with me, then we can do this. Also, listen to what I have to say.
Right. And not just that, though, but his ultimate goal, even in the framework of being the head of the Spanish Inquisition and stuff, is he's a war coming between, the witch breed and humanity. So it's a free brotherhood thing, and he does form the brotherhood of those who will inherit the earth, So his goals are very self-serving and ultimately for the benefit of mankind, or
I think that's a fair way to put it.
Right. So he is very true to character.
Yeah, he's very true to character. It's like everything from the 80s, 90s, even the 60s series, where it's like Magneto's constantly vacillating between, well, there's going to be a war between humans and mutants, and the mutants should strike first. And, well, there's going to be a war between humans and mutants, but we'll let that happen and we'll win when it happens.
Right. And, and to a certain degree, he was very meticulous in this book. He was playing both sides of not both sides of the field, but he was playing up to James, so that when James Power, would be able to, continue to save Witchbreed and stuff. And James's whole thing was like, well, I only agreed to let Witchbreed, who passed as humans, survive, and else gets burned, and so like, really interesting stuff. I was thinking as we were talking, one of the more interesting kind of like, it wasn't a plot point, so to speak, but it was just kind of a neat little thing. Like, there were several times where Peter would be almost bitten by a spider, and somebody would stop it from happening. Like, early on in, I think, the first issue, there's a spider, he's sitting, at a table in a tavern or whatever, and there's a spider crawling along and somebody crushes it. And then there's another point.
Dr. Strange's office, and there's a Black Widow, and he's like, hey kid, you probably don't want to be anywhere near this. She won't bite me, but I can't promise the same for you.
Right, and the crazy thing is, in that aspect, or in that scene rather, that spider, could have potentially given him his powers, because he was talking about how it was, I think it was subjected to the same shit that changed Reed and his family.
That's awesome. I didn't catch that.
Shit. Yeah. So,
that's really
that
good.
could have been the spider that gave him his powers, and then he was like, "Nope, you don't want to get bitten by this, dude."
Well,
and that was a neat little.
Then later, when Clea is trapped on the roof, and he's all like, Nick Fury's like, "Have you ever climbed a wall?" Yeah. No, sir, I've never climbed a wall.
And that was Virginia.
That was Virginia. Yeah. Excuse me, not Miss Clea. I had the two white-haired characters confused.
Yeah. But yeah, he's like, I can't climb. I never climbed a wall. But yeah, there was just really interesting takes on the characters we know and love, and they were all still true to form within this framework. Like Nick Fury, being, the Queen's intelligence, so to speak, and referring to himself as the Queen's Shield and stuff like that, and it was just really fucking well written. This is, at one point I kind of thought this is like a fan work done well, in the sense that it takes all these characters, takes them out of their usual stomping grounds, and is very true to them while putting a unique spin on them. It was just a really good book from start to finish. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Jason, what do you think?
Well, that was like my Honestly, I think 14th or 15th time reading it.
Damn.
Yeah. And see, the cool thing though is Steve Rogers is presented to us at near the beginning of the story as a Native American, or
Rojhaz,
and
yeah.
it's right, Rogers. And it turns out that he is Captain America, and he's from the future, and he has memories of the future, and that was kind of a neat spin. And at the end, he didn't want to go back. He wanted to fix, he wanted to the country.
He wanted to fix America.
Right.
He wanted Virginia Dare to be the future of
right
of
and
the USA.
Painted his face, in blue with the A on it and stuff like that. And I thought that was the cool.
He threw a plate to save his ward.
Well, the funny thing is, there's one detail that explains a hell of a lot. Before he got shoved into the past, he got shot in the head.
Yep. And that's why he didn't remember who he was for a long time.
So technically, this is a mentally ill Steve Rogers the entire fucking time. Because even when he gets his memories back, he's pretty erratic.
That's true. And he almost refuses, even knowing, that things will be fucked up if he doesn't. He's like, no, I'm gonna stick around for this. I want to guide the country, and that is Captain America. If you think about it, like, given the opportunity, Captain America would, want to stay and guide the country to the best possible version of it that it could be. That's the thing. Like, nowhere through this story are the characters, even in this different, reality or whatever, untrue to who they are. And that was the coolest thing, for me. Just like, and seeing the alliance to these play out, and just how true to everything it was. It really fucking entertaining. I really enjoyed this story.
Another thing that I really liked about this too was the way that Doom and Reed Richards and the whole Fantastic Four were all written, and everything were all on point. All of them were perfectly reflections of themselves in this new universe and everything. And I love how by default Victor Von Doom is just a Count of Latveria, and Latveria is just a country that exists there, and he's the royal family there, and that's the same. But the way that it's handled, yes. Well, not only that, but the way that it's handled is just, it's, if Doom cared more about wanting to play politics and be, actual royalty and stuff, instead of dealing with his hate boner for Reed Richards, because he has Reed Richards captured in his basement. He uses him to pick his brain, his intellect, and things like that,
And Reed sitting there pontificating about atoms and stuff like that.
Right. And apparently he created a battery at some point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I also love how he's talking to Doom about just really advanced concepts and things like that are references to other comics and things. and Doom's just like, stop talking all crazy and just tell me what this golden orb thing is.
Right. And I love that, because it was true to Doom and the Fantastic Four, because Doom would capture Reed and he would fucking imprison him, and then without acknowledging it, to anyone else, would rely on him like that. Like, it was great.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. Everything about this comic, everything about the characters, the storyline, even, just the way that everything's written and everything plays out. At first, it feels very fan fiction-y, but not in a bad way. You know, it's like a decent piece of fan fiction, and then it starts tightening up, and you realize, oh wait, no, this feels like this actually could have come out like as like a Marvel, like, you know, sort of a thing, like a hole could have opened in the future or something, like that whole arc beforehand that Captain America explains, you know, about how all the heroes died and everything, like that could have actually been like in universe, and then this could have like just been a continuation of that. That's how well written I felt it was.
Yeah, the one complaint I would have about this is that it starts up a little slow, but that's because you need to introduce like a massive cast, and it's like, well, okay, I guess you're probably going to have 2 books of setup when you have the Fantastic Four, and you have like half the X-Men, and you've got Steve Rogers, and you've got Daredevil, and you've got Peter Parker, and you've got Doctor Strange. You know, you got all these characters, and
you've got almost the entire major players in the Marvel universe
of 1960s Marvel, because I guess he deliberately chose to pick characters who were around in Marvel before 1970.
Sure, works so well. It ends up working way better than it had any right to. I think, you know, there's a lot of dialogue in these books and a lot of character introduction and stuff. And though it takes eight issues to play out, the story there is well conceived, I think. What I'm saying, like, nobody's really shortchanged in the story.
And once you get to like book 4, it just starts rolling, like everything. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it any better than that. Once you hit like book 3 or 4, everything starts, all the dominoes start setting down. You start seeing Nick Fury and Doctor Strange. Right. Like that's kind of at the pushing their actions.
Where we get the Uatu stuff. That's where we get the stuff with Uatu that moves the story forward. But also at the same time, where we got this world-ending cataclysm. Mm-hmm. We've also got the political intrigue still moving along, you know, and that's that kind of just that's what brings Magneto to form the Brotherhood of people who will inherit the Earth and such. That's what I love about it is what you were saying, like. What's kind of slow going. It does, at first, it does introduce characters, and then at no point does it shortchange them. Everybody's got a role to play. Really interesting role.
Yeah, like even like small characters like Toad have an interesting part in it. And the whole Catholic Church is apparently full of mutants.
Secretly full of mutants.
Well, mutants is obviously code for pedophiles. Oh, wait, this isn't a politics show.
Womp womp.
Yeah, I mean, I can't lavish enough praise on it. It was a really fun story from beginning to... Now, I will and say that it was kind of slow going at first, but it was telling, and it is a very wordy story, but not in that Claremont way. Mm-hmm. If you follow, like, it wasn't expository dialogue for the sake of like explaining shit. It was all meant to drive the story, and it was
develop character or like great dialogue.
What I've heard is that this was something Neil did to raise the money to get the Miracle Man rights.
Oh shit.
That's what I've heard. But it would make sense, you know, that and selling his...
The profits of the series went to help fund his Marvels and Miracles LLC company, which was fighting for the rights for Marvel Man. Yeah.
Which he eventually got.
I gotta say, though, if this is the kind of thing he writes to raise money for something else, then I'm all for it, man. Like, it's a really entertaining book.
Neil, please make more Marvel comics with good Marvel. Please.
Right, and he's a good entry point for, the writing of Neil Gaiman.
Oh yeah, no. This is probably one of the like easiest to pick up and read Neil Gaiman stories. Definitely, it's like some of his other stuff, like Sandman. I wouldn't recommend that to somebody who just started reading comics. That might be a little too
heady.
You know what I mean? A little too heady, a little too hard to follow, and very, very much Neil just pontificating.
Well, like I said on the pre-show, though, I wasn't too fan stuff. I've read some of the ancillary stuff, like the death and whatnot, but this actually has me totally fucking stuff from really wanna check it out.
Yeah.
Good comics for writing.
Yeah, and his novels are really good too.
Yeah, definitely. His novels are fantastic. I need to actually read more of them, to be perfectly honest.
I've read a bunch, and I've been watching American Gods.
Yeah, I need to watch that too. I wanted to read the book first.
But let's look at the art though. The art in this book was fucking amazing.
Yeah, no,
fucking Andy
definitely.
Kubert and was it Kurt Eisenove doing digital painting over things?
Yeah, and I just want to say that the digital paint, it just does not take away from the pencils at all.
No, I think it lets them through more.
It.
Yeah,
right. Like Andy Kubert's always been one of my favorite artists. Now, because even when his stuff is rough, and there are some rough panels in this book, where characters, like, their hands are weird and stuff like that. There was one panel where Virginia's talking to Strange, I think. And, it's kind of spaghetti fingers. But even with that, like, I really enjoy Kubert's work. Like, I think it's great, and I think that's enhanced in part in this book, at least by the colors. Like, there's some really good color work going on, and it's all digital work, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my understanding of it.
Yep.
And it's really well done. There's some strange inconsistencies in the art, like with there's one panel where Fury's eye patch is on the wrong eye, or a character's hair is colored the wrong way. Yeah, but those are few and far between. Generally speaking, though, the art in this book is solid. Kubert's always been one of my favorite artists, like when he was doing X-Men and stuff like that. I think this book is visually as appealing as the story is, and that's what I love about this. They work, in tandem to create a better whole. That sounds pretentious as fuck.
I got a better hole for you.
Well, hey, we'll work on that after the.
It's Dig's butthole.
Oh,
no, it's
but no. I
thank you.
I'm in tears, guys. You're killing me.
Never taken one that big. Okay, anyway.
Right, rip. No, the art in this is fantastic. Like exactly what you're saying. There's some really awesome scenes where Doctor Strange is tripping his nuts off or astral projecting one or the other. I don't think there's much of a difference with the toll it takes on his body. And, you've got him floating over the moon with massive hands and feet and a tiny little head. And, yeah, I think the art in this does a really effective job, especially with Stephen Strange. And
so, I gotta bring a point up. What this book says about transsexual rights.
Nothing.
No, but how fucking actually kind of funny was it with the whole Jean Grey thing with Warren?
Right. And see, that is an example, and I'm glad you brought this up, an example of, or whatever you want to call it, done right. Because, for the entire storyline up to this point that you're referencing, Warren believes that Gene is a man, because he's presented him as Master Gray. And
John
Gray.
Got a thing for, he's got a thing for John, and later on, Gene dies, and Scott comes to Warren, or, well, not Warren, but
the Warren analog.
Right, Werner, right, and says, I'm sorry for being jealous. I get that you didn't realize that she was a woman, and then he says, and he said, well, no, I thought she was, and it worked.
Yeah,
it wasn't forced.
It's like I thought she was a man, and thought she was a boy, and I was in love with that boy. I think I was in love with that boy, or something like that.
Right, and it worked. And see, that is the thing. Like, if you write it organically and naturally in the service of the story, that kind of, quote, diverse or whatever works.
Also, take note from this, Marvel, if any of the original 5 X-Men could easily be gay, it's the pretty boy, not the womanizer. The pretty boy womanizer, though, that's double gay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you that.
And that was the great thing about Werner, is they wore on his ear, he was known as he said, pretty boy womanizer, and with what he thought was a man. And
there's only one pretty boy womanizer allowed in comics, and that's Bruce Wayne.
Thank you.
All others must be homosexual by default.
Okay.
Looking at you, Tony Stark.
Is that the Aquaman rule?
Yes.
I thought Aquaman fucked
really
dolphins.
Oh, there was a character named Dolphin.
Hey.
He fucks sexy dolphins, I guess. I don't know. What are we talking about now?
Click, click, click means yes.
God, no.
Gonna stick that dick in that? No, bitch.
Dolphins
But
have
anyway.
vaginas. I think we just found the name of the episode right there.
Oh, God.
Dolphins have vaginas.
Let's. I don't know.
Dude, are you under a storm or something?
Story. Yeah.
Yeah, because you were roboting like fuck.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But no, I was going to say that story was, or that little bit of the story, it was great. It was character development. It didn't feel forced. It was written in the service of the story.
And it wasn't
character development, man.
in any way, shape, or form controversial.
No, and it played homage to the classic love triangle too. So it
Yes,
even
it did.
works in the history of Marvel. Like so many of these characters, it works provided that the characters tie back to who we know they are.
Right.
And with Werner Warren, hitting on Jean Grey all the time, and Scott getting all uppity about it.
That was true to
we get double the character connection.
Right.
This is an aside, but
It was true to the original timeline.
this is a bit of an aside, but with the way Marvel's going right now, with Scott still being dead, and Jean and Logan finally being back alive, I'm hoping Jean and Logan get their time in the fucking spotlight. I want them to be a thing again.
Yeah. We'll see.
It would finally, in my eyes, complete another part of Logan as a character. I don't know how.
Hitting on Jean Grey all the time part.
Yeah, and they finally did get together in a few issues of X-Men, and then she died immediately. That was when Scott got with Emma. She briefly
After she died.
Yeah, but they didn't get a chance to do anything with it. I'm hoping with them both alive now,
Sure.
maybe we'll see something there.
We won't, because this is Marvel. This is fucking diversity for diversity's sake, Marvel. And that was one of the things I took from this book, is back in the day, man, there was imagination, creativity there.
Yeah.
There was a lot of good stuff there, and you read this shit, it's like Squirrel Girl or whatever, and it's bullshit. I don't think the people who are writing these books have any imagination. They come off as Tumblr fucking writers or fan fiction writers. Damn it.
Well, I'm guessing y'all have already talked about 1602.
Hey, bro!
We're talking about it a little bit, man.
And in the last 20 minutes.
How are things, man?
Oh, yeah, things are good. Things are good. We're in the touch and go stage right now, so we'll see how things go over the. We'll see how things go over the weekend. She's at home. She's at home. She's resting, so we'll just
do the podcast.
Doing the podcast. Take my mind off.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir. Yes, sir.
I was listening to the live stream while I was trying to log in. So I heard. I'm guessing y'all are talking about the resurrections. Resurrections that are coming up.
Happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wolverine's already back. Jean's come back, I think, in December.
Well, whoever
Wolverine's got the Mind Stone.
Give credit where it's due. Whoever brought Wolverine back at least knows the attitude.
Yeah.
I give him credit for that because that was like as soon as the guy says, basically said, I'm gonna kill you, and he's like, yeah, already tried that. Yeah, whatever.
Been there, done that.
Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt. That's whatever.
But Wayne, would you agree though? After reading 1602 and then reading some of the more recent Marvel stuff, that it kind of feels like lame fan fiction now, like written by people who don't understand the weight of the comics.
Dude, part of that is you literally just read the work of a living god.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, you were coming from Gaiman to fucking Nick Spencer. So
yeah,
okay.
But
and that is the point, though.
Yeah, that is the point.
Wasn't Gaiman that is the point, man. They used to hire people who had a fucking clear love of the books, because this is an 8-issue fucking series that treats all the characters right within this new framework. Like they're in a total fucking reality,
respect,
so to speak.
There's respect for the characters.
Somehow you get 20 characters to interact in a realistic way. Like you just set them all in the simulation, and it fucking played out like it would. It feels exactly like you'd expect from if they did big events in the 1960s. That's what this would have been like. Right. You've got a book that pays homage to all the characters while putting them in an entirely new setting, and nobody's shortchanged. Everybody gets their time in the spotlight. It's great stuff.
This brings up a point, what you're talking about. It reminds me of something I just saw this guy I follow on Twitter. I think you do too, Daryl. John something Araz. Yeah. And he
the sci-fi writer.
The sci-fi writer, yeah, and he puts out his little videos just about every day about here's what's going, here's a new bullshit kind of thing, And it got away from me that there was this thing that it's like I don't know if you really call it a Kickstarter, but it's really like a thing where they're trying to get a story together for. The long story short is it was about midwives in battlefield situations.
Sure.
But here's where, and as I said, sounds like a great concept. And then here comes the bullshit, right? It said, we need it literally was telling them how to write it. I understand you got editors and shit like that who want you to, but it was literally like, you have to do this, you have to do that. You have to have this trans character. You have to have this character. You have to have a man fulfilling a woman's role. You have to have, I was like, I would have said, you know what? You write it. I'm done. I'm not worrying about it. If you got it all figured out, you fucking write it. I'm done.
Yeah. You bring that shit to me afterwards, and we'll fucking go over it.
Yeah. It's like you
go
got it all
out there and be creative.
Yeah. You've got it all fucking figured out. To each his own. You want to write that book? Fine. That's great. Don't put it on your fucking page and say this is how it's got to be before you even consider the job. Now here's the big thing. This is supposed to be taking place in like I said, battlefield, and they're talking about it's not on Earth. It's more like a fucking, off Earth. Think Warhammer, but then they literally say, but don't do Warhammer. Like, don't have big power armor and blah 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 and this and that. And I was like, what do you want? Is this a sci-fi book or is it a fucking documentary? Get out of here!
I think the worst thing you can do to aspiring writers is tell them what to write. Give them the basic framework and let them go crazy.
It'd be like it's like this. It's like I'm sitting down. Me and you are sitting down, or me and Jason are sitting down. It's like, hey, Jason, here's okay.
Sure.
I'm the editor, right? All right, Jason, I got this idea. Okay, or I should say the higher ups got this idea. They want Spider-Man to be. They want to take Spider-Man in his, from current year. Thank you, John Oliver, and put him in this in the 1700s around Revolution time. Can you work with that? And Jason would tell me yes or no, right?
Right.
I hope Jason will answer, but
I don't know what I'm capable of, nigga.
I'm just saying that's how things should work.
Yeah, ideally.
Technically speaking.
By the way, I just think I came up with a great idea, but
what you don't do is say we're going to put him back in the revolutionary era, and we want you to touch on transphobia, racism during that time, even though nobody was chopping off their dicks back then.
Yeah.
But I
get if you want the social commentary, that's fine, but
it should be organic.
It should be organic. It absolutely should. That's been my biggest gripe about this whole push. And I don't even call it a diversity push. I'm done calling it diversity because Marvel was fucking diverse as fuck before.
Yes, they were.
I'm not even going to give that a fucking time of day anymore because Marvel was fine. And I mean, we
got characters like Maggot, who was African, right? And Storm, we got she was an African for all intents and purposes. Due to her powers and shit. We got Magneto, who was a Jew.
Kitty Pryde, who was a Jew.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, we've had the discussions. Jason and I have differing opinions on it. You had North Star, who was already gay.
Right.
Right. And like I said, the only thing that I found silly about that was like he comes out and says I'm gay, and then like they made everybody forget that they were what they found out, and he's like, oh well, I'm still not going to tell them. Like, what?
Yeah.
And then later on,
but
this is like when I say with Grant Morrison and Chuck Austin just kind of forget things that happened, or they just don't read the Bible. Every creator gets a chance to go through the source, right? Every one of them. Yep. It reminded me of, is anybody here ever listened to it, even Kevin Smith, any of them? Mm-hmm. Okay. In the first one when he was talking about writing, Superman Lives.
Yeah.
He said he got access to all kinds of material from DC.
Yeah.
Every creator has that opportunity to get access to that stuff. Grant Morrison and Chuck Austin, fuck that noise. It's just, fucking secondary mutations. Fuck it, let's go.
They're the shoot wrestlers of the comic book world.
Yeah, exactly. And see, that's when you got that bullshit. It's like all of a sudden your North Star, he's been out and proud this whole time. It's like, no, he wasn't. You idiots. That's exactly what opposite of what happened. It was so silly, but it's like, and like I said, me and you, we've all talked about this. I can date you back to when all this shit started going downhill, and it was Avengers Disassembled.
Yep.
That was the start. That was a good event. Some of the follow-up events were good events. The problem is, as it happens with any other movie, blockbuster, things like that, some people feel they have to keep blowing it out to keep doing better, right? That's not necessarily always the case. Sometimes you need a lull. Sometimes you need a break, right? Mm-hmm. I've been a proponent for years to say, Madden, if they took a 2-year break and came back, that would probably be the biggest selling Madden ever.
Yeah, but then they would lose all that money from the years Madden before.
But then now, if they come out and have like a more
Assassin's Creed game, you could take a year off because there's not like a sports game you got to make every year. I'm sorry, that's just the rules of sports games.
I don't believe that. I think that's misnomer because
You
they
at least got to update rosters. And
well,
they
that's
never
what
made
deals
you do that.
That's what DLCs and shit are for these days. If you want to update your roster, fucking fine. Just update your roster.
That might work. You keep the same engine. You upgrade your roster. I can dig that.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, we're working on brand new shit over here. So we need a year to take care of that, right?
Another thing that also upsets me about yearly sports games, and this is totally off topic, but still, we don't get things like NFL Street anymore.
You've got an excellent point right there. No, we don't get Street. We don't get things like Blitz. Whatever. Grumble. That's been the Marvel mentality for a long time. It's like we need bigger events every year. We need something bigger. We need something shocking. We need this. We need that. Let's make Captain America a Nazi.
Make everybody Venom.
Yeah, let's make everybody Venom.
Right. And that's the thing. The storylines have become more in your face and verbose and ridiculous, but they don't have that heart that comics used to have.
No, it's like
even looking back at something like Age of Apocalypse, that story within the framework of what was going on there was interesting. And it turned characters on their ear and stuff, but in a realistic way within the, this world ruled by apocalypse and shit. Like, basically, man, comic book writers used to have a love for this shit, and you don't feel that love anymore.
Right.
Now I could walk into the executive's office at Marvel if I could get an appointment, and I could say, guys, I have the next hit comic. Are you ready for this? It's Groot as Deadpool. And they would be like, all right, let's get it. Let's go.
Nope, you're wrong.
No.
It would be Groot as Deadpool, but Groot as Deadpool is also a transgender Satan worshiper.
Right. And every panel has to be drawn with fucking, like, grody armpit hair.
Yeah.
I was thinking menstrual blood, but
Well, a little menstrual blood and a little fucking, buckwheat in a headlock.
But the fact that idea would even get approved is just sad, because Groot as Deadpool is a horrible idea.
It is a horrible idea. They would run it.
Right. And that's the thing. You go 20 years back, and comics had heart. Even within the framework of these big event stories like Age of Apocalypse, for example, the books within it, maybe the writing wasn't always great, but it was written by people who loved comics. Mm-hmm. Don't get that feeling anymore.
Look at
Captain America was a Nazi simply because they needed to shake shit up.
Yeah, when you get to the point where you're shaking shit up, just shake shit up. You know what? Close the doors. You're done.
Right.
There's a reason why Nintendo does so well, and it's because they don't shake shit up that they don't need to shake up. And you save a bunch of money, and you also release a bunch of great games that I like.
Nintendo shakes things up by changing the platform. That's how they do it. It's like, here's the new platform. That's our shake up. The games are still going to be great, though.
Yeah, Metroid is still Metroid.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, they shook up Zelda, the most recent one, by making it more like the original in terms of open world.
Great. That's the kind of shake up we need
more like
to
Mario
do.
64. Right.
But we don't need
when
a Cosmic Cube event every 2 years.
Right. Exactly.
We have a Cosmic Cube event every 2 years, then it's like I can't keep track of all that shit. I only read like 2 or 3 Marvel comics a time, man.
Why
read 100?
I mean, why wasn't the idea, like, I'm just spitballing here, the idea with whole, that Cap being a Nazi, and of course, my Cosmic Cube, was the reason for it.
Yeah.
That's lazy. That's freaking lazy. It's lazy as shit. That's, it's like, we got no other ideas, Cosmic Cube. No other ideas, Infinity Gauntlet. I mean, it's like...
Right.
Well, wait, you want to
know what's particularly...
Oh, sorry.
Well, I was going to say real quick. You want to know what's particularly lazy about that? Remember how they were saying that the events of this story would have lasting repercussions for Captain America and all that? Mm-hmm. Basically, what those lasting repercussions are is his evil doppelganger or whatever. God that is, has tainted people's perception of him, so he's just going to go.
Yeah, you are coming through hard, dude.
You know,
you're breaking up really bad right now. But
it's all good.
I get what you're saying.
I'm getting raped by the storm, baby.
Yeah, you're essentially saying that there are two. Now the lasting consequences is there's a good cap and an evil cap, and they both exist at the same fucking time.
No. Actually, the repercussions are that the good cap is going to fuck off for a while.
Yeah.
Well, that's still
because he
Let's be honest. That's lazy. That's still lazy.
Oh, fuck yeah. No, absolutely. And that's actually my point, is these huge repercussions they were talking about is literally Captain America realizing he doesn't have a place in this world now because there are kids who don't know how to differentiate between him and the evil Cap. That is the extent of it. Seriously. Like, he goes to help a kid, and that kid's like, oh, I'm gonna, I'm gonna fucking pull back because you look like the evil Cap. It's legit it. That is when he goes, okay, I'm gonna fuck off for a while and find my place in this world. And that is fucking lazy as fuck.
I would say, you see, I could see Captain America walking away if he said, I'm not fighting for this.
Yeah, but it's not that.
Or something like that. No, this is I'm scared. That's literally an I'm scared tactic.
Yes.
Captain America is not scared.
So Captain America,
that's what pisses me off,
Captain America, we know, would fucking work hard to repair the damage done by Hydra Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Captain America saying, hey, look, that's fucking way too hard for me. I'm going to walk off. I'm going to stop being Captain America for a while and fuck off because I can't be bothered to put in the energy and the effort to make that shit right.
You remember in the Superman animated series, the very end before, everything went to Justice League pretty much. He was brainwashed by Darkseid and he tried to conquer Earth in the name of Darkseid.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point was Darkseid, he said, if you will not be my knight, you will be my pawn.
Hey guys, sorry about how that episode ended. We hit a streak of technical difficulties. But yeah, for the guys, I just want to say thanks for listening. Support your local comic shop, support the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, and see you next time.